Ladies and gentlemen, we have a legend on the show today. Somebody who has been a mentor to me for years since leaving the NFL, but also one of the greatest sports writers in the history of the NFL. He's the former president of the Pro Football Writers of America. He hails from Chicago, Illinois, and the University of Illinois. Please welcome ESPN writer Jeff Legwold. What's going on, brother?
That's way too much.
Let's just start NFL-wise. What's the most interesting story to you this season?
Well, you know, guys, I always think the most interesting eras in the NFL are where we're at right now. There's one alpha. Now, we had one in Brady, and usually there are these gaps before another one comes along. This is a rare, and at least in my time covering the league, it's rare where the unquestioned alpha has gone almost a handoff.
Kind of happened while Brady was playing even.
To the next unquestioned alpha, and the fact that Mahomes is only 28, I think dictates how everything goes in the league. And to me, that's intriguing. And it's only more intriguing if you're here in Denver because the Broncos have to live that life every day in the same division. You can't even win your division unless you can deal with him. I mean, he's other people's problems down the road, but for the Broncos, it's a day-to-day issue. And to me, that's intriguing because I think it's a hard position for a player to be in, and the list of people who can flourish doing that is short, very short, maybe the shortest.
Did you see that when Elway was playing in terms of how the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders, how they are viewing that alpha within the division? Did you see that when Elway was the quarterback here in terms of everybody was chasing Denver?
Yeah, I think the youth is the really quirk of this equation. I mean, Mahomes has done so much so young. Mm-hmm. He's not even technically to the prime of a quarterback life. You know, Elway's real successes came as soon as Mike Shanahan arrives, he unlocks a part of Elway's game. You know, the 30-touchdown season, I think Elway only had one before Mike Shanahan got to Denver. You know, so even he got elevated in that, and the team got better and all those things. I think it's the youth component. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what makes this hard if you're the other guys trying to deal with it.
Well, as the unquestioned alpha in writing, we'll come back to football.
I'm not.
You know, as the unquestioned alpha in writing, you know, one of the things I love about you, Leggy, you're in this business that people say are dying. Journalism's dying. Everything's going to print. And here you are. You just keep winning, right? Beyond football, what do you think gets in the way of people doing the work that needs to be done to make the career they want in the way that you've done it?
It's going to take effort, no matter what you're doing. You know, my dad worked in a rail yard. I never saw the man read a book in my entire life. I quote him all the time.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because that job was not a great job. People wouldn't go say, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But those guys all showed up every day and gave effort. When I speak to students or young people trying to get in the business or get started, my message is usually you're going to have to put in an effort. It's not going to be I turn the camera on myself and I said a couple funny things and I was witty or I edited it well and it was in that moment it was quirky and it got a lot of likes and everything. You know, tomorrow is still tomorrow. You got to have a plan. How am I going to do this profession?
What was the story when you were either getting the information and you were like, wow, I never thought I'd be writing, whether it's Bill Belichick's favorite spaghetti sauce or whatever it was. Like, what's that story?
You know, I had a bunch. Just every time you got to do like something else cool. Like the first bowl game I covered was cool, even though I think the score was 6-3.
Hey, you probably loved it though.
I wrote 5 stories off a 63 game. That's you want to work hard. That's hard right there.
You're at ESPN now. I would love to know toughest conversation you've had with a head coach or an owner.
You're always going to have tough ones, and that's another thing I try to tell folks when they're getting into this. You've got to be sturdy. you've got to keep doing the work every day. So when you are having a disagreement with somebody, you're doing it with, I put in the work.
Yeah.
I have this information, and you tell the story fairly, the correct way. You've done everything you should do. And then the conversations are just loud. They're not necessarily tough.
Right.
You know what I
You
mean?
know all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets loud, and it's a type A business. You guys know better than me. A lot of times folks want to know, where'd you find out? A lot of times they want to know, they're just mad about the whole thing. And sometimes, look, it's a human business. They may not particularly like you. I've never had anybody tell me, after all these years, player, coach, anybody say, I'm never talking to you again. So I've never had that. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to at least work enough to where people can say their piece, vent, whatever they need to, and then we move on to the next day.
Does any one conversation stand out, though? Anything with Shanahan, anything with
Well,
Sean
Mike
Payton?
was one of the most competitive people on the planet. And he when he thinks he's right, he usually is a lot of the time. So that's how they get to where they are. But Mike and I would go at it pretty hard. But it's funny now. I was telling you guys, we have coffee from time to time. But if you're going to cover a team, you're almost embedded. You're with the team every day. It's the same group of people every day. It's a little more distant now than it used to be. So it's a little different dynamic these days. But not everybody's going to be happy with you every day, and that's okay.
One of the things I think you do best is build relationships. And whether somebody's in sports, out of sports, what are 3 keys in your experience to building a solid relationship?
I don't know if I have 3, but I mean, one, and certainly in this, is be curious. If you're not curious, go do something else. We've all got stories. Like I say, my dad used to say, but he'd say, everybody's got crap. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something, I always try to remember that. It's a human business, but be curious to me is the most important thing. And the other thing is, don't be a bird in the nest. You only want something when you're getting fed. If you're going to be in a communication business, if I only talk to you, Bennie, when I need something from you, that's not a good relationship. Don't be the bird in the nest and be super curious about everything, and don't make up your mind. I don't want my questions to be sort of me presenting, here's what I know about all these things. Now you give me that's not what I like doing. When I've taught classes, I do say the longer the question, the shorter the answer.
So with putting your curious hat on, just love to know your thoughts in terms of the 2 years here with Russell Wilson.
One of the most unique situations any of us have ever seen, to have such a huge commitment go away so quickly. I guess I'm struck by, that's a decision 10 years ago nobody would have made. But I don't know that it was given a chance by all parties to really work.
In your opinion, after going to the Combine, who are the top 3 quarterbacks, as you've kind of gone through them, that you believe are ready day one to play in the NFL?
I guess the way I would phrase it is, I don't have a grade on any of these quarterbacks as high as the grade I had on C.J. Stroud last year. As a prospect, he was one of my favorites. I had him graded about where I had Trevor Lawrence graded. I think Caleb's going to be thrown in right away. Caleb Williams will be thrown in right away. I think there's an immense possibility Drake May will be thrown in right away.
I think those
to
are
play.
mistakes.
I think Jalen Daniels will be likely end up in a place where he's going to get thrown in right away. So I don't know that any of this class, to me, is ready, but they will all. Many of them will be asked to, for sure.
Let me just ask, too, what would be your advice to a rookie quarterback coming into the NFL?
The Monday through Saturday, you've got to find your rhythm, your way to prepare. And if you think you're good at preparation, know that you're probably not.
Not even close.
It's a grown-up business. Like, you're the quarterback. There's a lot of people, mortgages riding on your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And not just your decisions on 3rd and 12. It's your decisions on Tuesday, your decisions on Wednesday. And some people don't want that responsibility. Well, then that's not the job for you. And once your confidence goes, it's really hard to get that back as a young player. That's the one thing I've seen over the years is it takes like 2 weeks to lose confidence and it takes like 2 years to get it back. It's already hard to do the job. Where's this rusher coming from? What's this coverage roll to?
Yeah.
I mean, you got all of that anyway, but now you add on the other aspect of it, and it's a hard gig. I'm with a lot of coaches. I think it's the hardest job in all of sports, really, at the highest level.
Peyton's 4 years here that you were covering the team. Talk to me. What stands out about those 4 years where win the AFC West every year, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win? Talk to me about what it was like to cover the team.
Yeah.
Record-breaking.
I told people during the 2013 season all the time, I hope you're appreciating this because you're never going to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's never been a 600-point team in the league's history, and there still hasn't been one.
600
Patrick's
points.
listening.
Yeah.
Patrick's listening. So what was the difference between the 600-point season and the Super Bowl season?
Less points.
Super Bowl winning season.
Less points.
Tempo. I think Peyton missed 7 starts too.
Yeah.
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 That was part of it too. But that it's always the argument. It was a 600-point historical season, but they didn't have a plan B either. And I always felt like the 2015 team had a plan B no matter what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me all the time, some folks even think sort of the 2014 team may have been better talent-wise than 2013, whatever. The difference to me between the Super Bowl 50 team is that team had a plan B for whatever happened on that day. Like, all right, this isn't working, do this.
Yeah.
This isn't working, do this.
Jeff Legwold, 2024 NFL Draft, 2 receivers you really love that people might be missing.
2 receivers.
Yeah.
I got to go to my list now.
Get to the list.
I love the Washington kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
can
is
play.
the man.
Yeah.
He is the man. And I think because of what he's done during the draft windup, and he's a local youngster, Max McCaffrey has done what you need to do before a draft.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear all this stuff about people moving up and down in the draft, a lot of that's really exaggerated. Doesn't really happen on the boards in the league, but he has really moved.
Max McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And that Rice team did way better than people thought, right?
But, I mean, he's just shown himself to be an NFL-ready receiver. And I just think that's cool when a guy makes the most of – like he went to the Senior Bowl and did great, and then he did great at the Combine, all those things. But anyway.
What's your favorite story from Super Bowl 50 that maybe you did write about or couldn't have written about?
Off the field, I always think the double bird Peyton gave to the and Coobs, who I've known since he was a player almost, for Coobs to call him and say, "Hey, I got your message." Mm-hmm. I just think that's a classic moment of a championship team that had everything going right. But
Broncos record prediction 2024.
Wow, I don't know. Right now, I think it'd be like a 7-10 if it goes okay.
Ooh.
They're thin. They're really thin.
Yeah.
You can't make this many coaching changes and not be thin.
Last one for me. What's the biggest mistake head coaches make?
Stubbornness. And even Andy Reid, I think I've seen Andy interviewed on it. He would say that he's been far more flexible as a Chiefs coach than he was as an Eagles coach in terms of look at how they structured their offense this year. A lot of 2 tight end, a lot of 3 tight end even, fullback, because they didn't have the roster in previous 15 years ago maybe. He may have been far more, we're running our stuff.
Yeah.
No matter what. If you are accountable to yourself and are willing to say, I have to do better. And to me, that's what I've seen from Andy Reid. Now, he's got the alpha. Mm-hmm. They won the lottery.
The Jeff Legwold, thank you for
Appreciate
the
you,
honor
Jeff.
of spending time with you, brother. Thanks,
Man.
It's been my honor. Thanks, fellas.
All right.
I covered you both.
See, that's how long you've been in the game, you know?